All right, today we're doing a deep dive into a really pivotal moment in the Spanish Civil War, the final critical days of the Battle for Bilbao in June of 1937. We're going to be using some incredible operational maps and archival data from the Batallas Guerra Civil project to give you a blow-by-blow tactical analysis of exactly how the city fell. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, to really get a handle on this operation, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First up, we'll set the stage, looking at the strategic situation on the ground. Then, we'll zoom in on an absolutely crucial decision made by the Basque High Command. From there, we'll track the Nationalist offensive as it unfolds, which, of course, leads to the fall of the city itself. And finally, we'll wrap up with an assessment of the immediate aftermath and what it all meant.
So, let's begin with the big picture on June 13th. What are we looking at here? Well, it's really a story of a fundamental, almost shocking imbalance. You could even call it an asymmetry, especially when it comes to command and control.
Just look at this breakdown. It tells you almost everything you need to know. On one side, you've got the Nationalist forces, a single, unified command structure, overwhelming tactical superiority, and beautifully coordinated action. It's a textbook modern military operation. But on the other side, the Basque Army Corps, well, it's a completely different animal. Their command was compartmentalized, basically siloed. They had zero air support, and while their soldiers showed incredible bravery, their actions just weren't coordinated. This asymmetry is the absolute key to understanding everything that's about to happen.
So, keeping that imbalance in mind, let's try to put ourselves in the shoes of the Basque leadership. It's June 13th. Nationalist forces are literally on the hills overlooking the city, and the High Command is gathered inside the Carlton Hotel for a meeting that will decide Bilbao's fate. You can just imagine the pressure in that room. I mean, picture the scene. General Dávila's troops are right there on the Santa Marina Ridge, looking down. And inside the hotel, President Aguirre gets his commanders together. And according to one observer, the entire meeting boiled down to one stark, brutal question. Could Bilbao be defended from a military point of view or not? That was it. Hope versus a grim military reality.
And, after what must have been an agonizing debate, at 4 o'clock in the morning, they made their choice. They would defend the city. The very next day, on the 14th, General Gámir sent out the orders. They started prepping for a brutal, last-ditch defense, setting up 2 defensive sectors and, critically, preparing demolition charges for all 7 of the city's bridges. They were going to turn Bilbao into a fortress.
Okay, so the Basque forces are digging in, preparing for the worst. Now, let's flip the map and look at it from the Nationalist perspective. They weren't planning a simple frontal assault. No, their plan was far more sophisticated, a multi-pronged attack designed to completely encircle and choke the city into submission. And here it is, the order of operations for June 15th. It's a classic 3-pronged envelopment. The primary objective, seize all the heights that dominate the city. It's simple military logic. If you control the high ground overlooking Bilbao, you control Bilbao. You can trap the defenders and effectively seal their fate from above.
And on the 15th, they set the plan in motion. In the south, the 1st and 4th Brigades pushed across the Ibaizábal and Nervión rivers, meeting less resistance than they expected. At the very same time, on the coast, the Italian Flechas Negras, or Black Arrows Brigade, began their advance. The southern and northern arms of the pincer were moving. The net was already beginning to close. And it wasn't just on the flanks. At the same time, the 5th and 6th Brigades were hammering the northern heights around Arcamanda. Now, the key here is the psychological effect. Imagine being a Basque defender. You're being hit from the south, from the coast, and from the north, all at once. It's overwhelming. The defensive lines started to buckle, morale collapsed, and you can see here they were already drawing up plans for a retreat all the way back to Laredo. The collapse was starting to accelerate.
June 16th. This was the day the trap snapped shut. The 1st Brigade secured the absolutely critical high ground of Malmacín, giving them a perfect observation post over the entire city. Meanwhile, up north, the 6th Brigade captured the Sandica airfield and, this is huge, linked up with the coastal forces. The encirclement was now virtually complete. Bilbao was being strangled.
And while those main pincers were closing, other Nationalist units were busy securing the gains. The 4th Brigade advanced down the Arachia Valley, locking down the southern approaches, and the 3rd Brigade conducting supporting actions, like recapturing the Gorbea Massif. This wasn't just about taking ground. It was about preventing any possible Basque counterattack. They were systematically locking the door behind them.
And that brings us to the final act, the fall of the city itself. We're now looking at the last few days, from the 17th to the 19th of June. This is the story of the Basque withdrawal and the eventual Nationalist occupation. So on the evening of the 16th, the Basque leadership had to face the inevitable. The military situation was utterly hopeless. They made the agonizing decision to abandon Bilbao. They even created a provisional defense junta, not to organize a defense, but to try and manage an orderly evacuation. But here's a fascinating political twist. This decision was in direct defiance of orders from Minister Prieto and the Central Republican government in Valencia, who were telling them to resist at all costs.
June 17th. This was really the final nail in the coffin for any defense. Nationalist forces pressed their advantage and occupied the Archanda Heights. From this position, they had full, direct observation of the entire city. Every street, every building was now exposed to their artillery. Any further defense was not just futile, it was suicidal.
By the 18th, the city was completely sealed off. Nationalist brigades were just consolidating their positions, tightening the ring. Inside the city, it was becoming chaotic. The general withdrawal of Basque forces had begun, but it was happening amidst considerable confusion, with conflicting orders and the enemy closing in from all sides. It was turning into a desperate scramble to get out. Then, at 2 in the morning on June 19th, a series of massive explosions echoed through the city as the last Basque units blew the bridges over the Nervión River, a final act of defiance. Just a few hours later, at dawn, the V Brigade of Navarra led nationalist troops into the city center. They met almost no resistance. By morning, it was over. Bilbao had fallen.
So, the battle is over, the city is taken. But what did it all mean in the larger context of the war? Let's take a quick look at the immediate outcomes of this operation.
The victory was, to put it mildly, massive for the Nationalists. They captured an estimated 10,000 prisoners, but the real prize was the city's infrastructure. Bilbao was an industrial powerhouse, and incredibly, they captured it almost entirely intact. You see, the Republican government had ordered a scorched earth policy, but that order was either ignored by the Basque command or simply arrived too late. This was a gigantic strategic and economic coup for Franco's war effort.
And this map shows you the new military reality. A new front line was instantly established just west of the city. The Basque army, what was left of it, was broken and in a full, disorganized retreat towards Santander. The fall of Bilbao didn't just mean the loss of a city, it fundamentally shattered the Republican front in the north.
And here you have it, the final scene of the operation. Nationalist forces and their local sympathizers celebrating in the streets of Bilbao. It marks the complete consolidation of political and military control over one of the most important regions in Spain. For the defenders, it was the end of everything they'd been fighting for.
Now, all of the incredible operational maps and the detailed information in this briefing comes from the fantastic work done by the batallasguerracivil.es project. It's spearheaded by Spanish Army Colonel F.J. Victor Rodrigo. If you want to go even deeper on this topic, and I seriously recommend you do, you have to check out their website. The level of detail they have is just astounding.
So, we'll end with the one question that really hangs over this entire episode. Given the massive strategic imbalance, the complete lack of air support, and the fractured command structure of the defenders, was a successful defense of Bilbao ever actually operationally feasible? Or was this a foregone conclusion from the very beginning? Something to think about.